Hey YouTubers, I hope you're enjoying the content. Before we get to today's video, I want everyone to go hit that bell over by the subscriber button so you're notified every single time I upload. Enjoy the video. Hey YouTubers! That's MJ. I'm Mark, and we're going to be talking to you guys something that happened in episode 94 of Dragon Ball Super. Basically, the episode was kind of like a filler episode for the most part, but it was really enjoyable, at least for me. I'm sure a lot of people who were watching it felt the exact same way. Kind of killing time, making space until we get to the Tournament of Power. But there was one thing in this episode that I think they kind of started planting the seeds. I mean, they did this episodes ago if you really want to kind of split hairs about it, but basically planting the seeds for maybe a side story, kind of a filler side story, B plot or whatever going on in the background of all of the fighting, or maybe even C plot if you want to really put it that way, of Goten and Trunks, and now even Marin are going to be looking over 18's island and from the poachers and all this other stuff that's going on. And I think, and MJ, I want to hear your opinions as well, but I think that they've set it up to a way that it's actually going to become a legit side story for this arc, and maybe even leads to Goten and Trunks having this realization, because in this episode Goten and Trunks were lied to from everybody. Like everybody, Bulma, Vegeta, even Vegeta kind of had an existential crisis about the whole concept that he was lying for Frieza. But like they're going to learn, because what Goku told them, why they need to look after this place and what's going on in the background of like when they're actually taking care of this island for him from the poachers. We actually have Marin, who has a different understanding of what's going on as well. And you know, for all intents and purposes, we've already seen a lot of the poacher arcs and all this other stuff going on for that particular thing. Goten and Trunks and even Marin, we might even get to see her kind of come out and show some of her abilities, which would be pretty awesome considering her parents are strong. Maybe she has some kind of abilities as well. So these guys are not going to be a problem for them. They'll be taken out pretty easily. But this difference in understanding of why they're there and everything might lead to something of them like going to see what's going on or trying to figure out what's going on as a legit like I said, B or C story for the entire Tournament of Power. Something like a comedic situation, but also giving us a little bit more time with these particular characters. What are your thoughts?
I still think it's creepy that Marin looks the way she does.
Yeah, like what was it? Were you the one who posted like the pictures like, why you always lie? It's like you've grown up. It's like, why you lying, 18 or something?
According to a Toriyama interview, 17 has seen her before when she was a baby, but it's just like, dude, it's creepy. She's supposed to be like around Goten and like Trunks' age, and she's like still being carried by like 18. That's weird, dude. That really is kind of creepy to me. But anyways, moving forward, yeah, I don't know if there will be like a whole like realization point where they figure out what's going on. Like, I mean, it could happen because, you know, both Goten and Trunks have a different understanding of what the situation is compared to Marin. However, though, I do agree with you that I feel like there will be like a C/B side story here, because for the longest time everyone's been wondering, man, how can this arc last, you know, long? How can the tournament, I should say, last long? How could this be a long tournament? Well, just to point out, you know what I mean, the Frieza versus Goku fight was 5 minutes, so let's just say that. So so a 48-minute fight, but now that we got like this whole, oh, the poachers, like there's, you know, there's brats there, we can, you know, we can steal the, you know, that Scimitar or whatever the fuck it was, right? Scimitar. We can steal that. Whatever it was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Minotaur, I don't know what it was called, but they can go steal that. I feel like we're gonna get cutaways. I mean, we may actually get like full episodes dedicated to Trunks and like Goten protecting that island. If freaking Pilaf and the gang could get a whole episode dedicated to him, I'm sure Goten and Trunks could. You know what I mean? Where like they're exploring the island. It's already been made painfully clear that the island is really big. You know, maybe they do a thing where they want to go on foot. You know what I mean? And check the place out instead of like flying over it. And of course, Marin's there, so that would be even like more of a. You get my point. I feel like they're gonna do that. Like, we'll be getting like Jiren versus Gohan next episode, and then when the next episode comes up, it's like Goten and Trunks like in a puddle playing, and then like Marin like protecting. So I feel like we'll get some shit like that. I mean, as far as the realization though, maybe it could be cool, but I don't think that'll be focused on it. That's just because, when it comes to stuff like that, I really kind of give Super the benefit of the doubt. I kind of take it 50-50, but I feel like we will get like 4 episodes dedicated to Goten and Trunks, though, protecting the island.
Yeah, and like I said, the one thing I just kind of imagine here, and this is what I want, basically me pitching what I want from this. Obviously, with the last tournament, the Champa arc, they didn't necessarily cut back to Gohan. Not that there was any real need to, but I think they really should have. In fact, I kind of want to do a video about this later. But maybe a hint of what we're going to do later. Actually, I just thought of it. But anyway, the thing is they can actually cut back to Goten and Trunks, who have this, like I said, a different understanding as to what's going on. They've been lied to. And Goku's been lying out his ass this entire arc, honestly. He's lied to everybody. They have to force him to tell the truth because they're just like, this guy is not fucking honest in the he's a bad liar. Well, no, he's not a bad liar. You all believed him in the first place, but maybe they believe Gohan. I don't know. But anyway, this so basically what's I think's going to happen is these poachers are not going to stand a chance against these 3 kids. And that's a big joke point in itself. It's comedic relief and everything. But I think they're going to take them out pretty easily. Maybe if it's even an episode. And then it can go one of 2 ways. We kind of kill a week's episode dealing with this, basically, the C plot going on in the background, where it doesn't necessarily take away from anything going on right now. And then you basically cut back to the fight and you just deal with the fight. I don't want them to do that because it's just too easy. We've already seen it done with 17 and Goku for the most part, in a much bigger scale. What I want them to do is basically, if they want to take an episode taking out the human poachers, having a lot of fun, being comedic relief, that's fine. But what I want after that is basically this realization that they're there for the wrong reasons, or they don't necessarily know why they're there. And then, considering they're the people they are, they know how to fly, they can, they took out the poachers, the place is safe, they're not going to do anything. Then they go searching out for people, because it seems more and more clear that they're not taking everybody. They're going to take the fighters, they're going to fight that way and everything. So they're going to go search out Bulma, Videl, Chi-Chi, all this other, looking for answers to people who don't know anything, especially at first. They might not go to Bulma first, but say they go to Chi-Chi, and then they go to Videl, and then they go to Bulma or something like that, and Bulma's like, yeah, this is what's going on, and then they're like, oh crap, what do we do? And then they go to Dende, and then they're watching it on GodTube, because I've already said that Gowasu is like a perfect person to be streaming this thing from GodTube. So they go to Dende, who's a Kai, or like a Kami, a god who can watch it on GodTube. So they're all watching it together, and that's kind of our cut to kind of use this filler time to basically cut to this situation where they're all looking at what's going on, and we're wasting time and having comedic relief through that.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a very great point. I can definitely see that happening where, Goten and Trunks, where they give like a whole episode dedicated to him to take out the poachers. Because remember, the poachers do know they can fly, so they're not normal kids. So we may get like shenanigans where they're trying to outsmart them because they're kids. So they know they can't beat them, so they're gonna try and outsmart them, and maybe like fool like Trunks or Goten with like candy. Oh, I'm getting in the wrong section here. But you know what I mean? They'll try and outsmart them and stuff. So we'll get like an episode of shenanigans with them, and then maybe they finally defeat the poachers, or the poachers like we're never coming back. They raise the white flag, just like go away in their submarines. So Goten, Trunks, and Mariner are like, all right, let's get out of here, right? So they go do their thing. Now that's a very good point, because that's almost reminiscent of how almost all fights are. You know what I mean? Like you go to the Spirit Bomb, back in the Buu arc, everyone could like, hey, let's, support Dad, let's give our energy to him. So it was cutting away from the Kid Buu versus Goku, Vegeta, and Satan fight back to like them trying to like Gohan and them, raising their hands to give energy, and then trying to convince people, and then even going back to the Cell arc and the Saiyan arc, you got cutscenes where everyone was watching the fight, in Roshi's house, and they were cutting back and forth, So yeah, that makes perfect sense that would end up happening. Maybe even Bulma goes with them. Maybe Bulma takes everyone with like their her aircraft or something, and they all go to Kami's Lookout or the Heavenly Realm, and they watch the fight there with Dende and Popo. That would be really cool. In fact, yeah. I hope we get that like in almost every universe. That would be kind of cool. Because if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, but I just remember them saying that the Pride Troopers, that they were looking to take other members, not just the Pride Troopers, to Universe 11.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe there's a storyline where maybe some of the Pride Troopers were too weak, they felt, so maybe they left them behind and they took other members, or just something like that. You know, where in every universe you kind of get like a bit of, you know, someone from that, someone who's like important to that universe watching the fight. I think that would be real cool.
No, I completely agree. And like, yeah, like you said, I didn't necessarily think of it that way, but that's actually an interesting point. Maybe Dende doesn't necessarily have the wherewithal to actually watch GodTube, or he doesn't have an account or something. Like anything that they could basically do to kind of continue the freaking joke of GodTube right now, because it is a legit joke for this entire series. It's quite funny, and it makes a whole lot of sense for everything in this series. So if they can continue it, I'm gonna be a huge fan. But yeah, like maybe Dende can't watch it, but the Kai, or at least Kibito Kai, or someone's going to be around that can literally go pick them up and bring them back to the sacred world and watch it that way. I just like the idea of them being on Kami's lookout. And I'm not just talking about Goten and Trunks. I'm talking about Goten, Trunks, Marin, Bulma, Brawl, Videl, Pan, Chi-Chi, Ox King, all of the guys that we know, because that kind of brings us back to the Boo arc. Remember when they were all up there and they were just like, oh my god, like, you know, this is basically the end of the world type of situation, and we're all trying to watch and see what's going on, and this is the only safe place that we know, or how we can keep up with all the certain events with our god and all this other stuff. So that would be really interesting to me, just seeing them all there, rooting on for the tournament as a whole. And it would be like, as I've said before, the whole GodTube thing, if this is how they end up all watching it, it would also be a callback to how they dealt with it for the Saiyan arc and also the Cell arc, where basically everyone was back in, anyone who wasn't a fighter or who wasn't necessarily involved with the proceedings was at home watching it on television, because they were trying to broadcast that. So I think that would be pretty interesting to see, and
well,
I really
hope
hope
nice
that's where they're going.
Back to the Boo arc, because when you think about it, let's paint a picture for you know, your viewers. Let's just say Goten and Trunks find out about the tournament. The only person they know they can head to is Dende, maybe because they know him as God, you know.
Yeah,
so,
and they already went there before.
Yeah,
like we know that they know where that is. Plus, in the Frieza arc, Goku legitly sent them there, so we know that they know how to get there by themselves. Like they don't need any help.
Yeah, so they get there, and then Bulma's like, "Oh, these scoundrels!" So she packs Bola up, puts her in the aircraft. You know, maybe Videl and Chi-Chi jump in there, and they head off after them. You know what I mean? Well, and then they're flying. They get there. They ask Dende, "How can we watch, you know, the tournament, or how can we get there?" Dende doesn't know. The aircraft lands. They come out, and then maybe Kibito comes, and he's like, "Oh, the Elder Kaioshin left one watching orb or something, you know." So he puts a little crystal ball down, and then everyone watches it on the lookout, like how you want. So when we all know this tournament's gonna end well somehow, you know what I mean? Whether the universes get wished back, whether only some get wished back, whether they all get moved to Universe 7. My point is, Universe 7 isn't being erased, so you can have a callback moment to Boo where you know, they all come back via instant transmission with Goku, and they land on the lookout, and then you have like that whole family reunion, you know, everyone there. You know, I mean, kind of like that moment at the end of the Boo arc, you know, when everyone came back to the lookout and everyone was like hugging their families, you know, stuff like that. So you can kind of have that cool moment there.
And also probably battle damage Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, and everyone else. That would be really cool. We haven't seen many battle damage anyone in this series. I know we definitely need it. But yeah, like that would be probably the perfect place to end this. It would be a callback to the Boo arc and everything else like that. And considering the fact that, like, after this tournament, we've considered the fact that this is where the story's going, where they've mentioned Oob twice at this point, and Goku, and maybe at this point in the story, might realize that they're not as strong as they need to be, and he could help kind of usher in the next generation and everything like that. So he decides to train Pan and Goten and even Oob, and that's how you lead into the end of Dragon Ball Z. That would be a really interesting place to end it, because you basically end the same place that they ended with the Boo arc, and thus kind of bring it full circle. And, you know, even when Dende told him that Oob was existing, he was on the lookout and everything. So I feel like the lookout's a pretty unique, significant place, and I really hope that that's where they're going with this. It's really possible that that's not what they're going to do, and like you said, we'll cut back to it a couple times, or we'll even get an episode where they just take them out and then they just sit there for the most part and not do anything. But I feel like there's so many possibilities on how they could take this and just make it their own and make it interesting, where we're looking at Goten and Trunks and everyone else basically getting into the mix who hasn't necessarily been a part of this conversation yet.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I just think that would overall be fun because I mean, Kibito Kai has been to Earth before, so it would be cool if he stops by and just gives, like, whether it's Goten and Trunks by themselves on the island. That way we can get more cutback scenes to them, or to them and Marin, or whether he just stops by Capsule Corp or the Lookout and he drops like a little watching orb for everyone. I think it would just be cool.
Exactly, and it's not like we're necessarily... I feel like the last thing we need to say here is it's not necessarily that we're forgetting this place. I mean, even in the last episode, we were at Karn's Tower, so we're still staying in that general area. It's understandable that we'd actually go back to it at some point. So it would be a really good place to basically end the arc if they were going to do that. But we'll have to just wait and see. They could definitely just do the exact same thing. They've been hanging out at Bulma's place too a lot this whole series. So so that's possible too. But anyway, guys, what I want you guys to do is go down to the description section below, hit MJ's link, because if you don't sub to him yet, you really should, because he makes some really awesome content daily, Dragon Ball and anime content for anyone who's interested. It's really great stuff, so please make sure to go do that. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell over by the subscriber button for more content from me. Anytime I decide to post it, some of the stuff is pretty erratic, especially the stuff that's not necessarily Dragon Ball, if you're interested in that. And with that being said, we're going to catch you on the next video. Bye.